Guys, we're finally moving on to the Saturday slate of rivalry games. And why don't we just start with the biggest one? It's 11 o'clock. Um, Ohio State looks to be a 9.5 point favorite currently, depending upon where you look. Game day will be there because this game is at Michigan. And it's one of those situations, man, where if you're Ohio State and Ryan Day, you've got to get a win here. Now, obviously, last year we know they lost this game, still went on to win the national title, so that's still a possibility for Ohio State. But you gotta beat your rival. You have to beat Michigan. And it's just one of those things. It's kind of like the Iron Bowl. You have to be able to beat Alabama. You have to be able to beat Auburn. It's on that level. So this is a huge game also for the Big Ten. There is a chance that Michigan can squeak into the Big Ten championship game with a win over Ohio State, and also could be knocking down the doorstep for a college football playoff appearance if they do beat Ohio State, having beat the number one ranked team in the country, a consensus number one throughout the committee's rankings since the beginning of this year.
Yeah, man, this is, in my opinion, the best rivalry game in college football. I know some Iron Bowl people will fight me on that. Look, I hear you. Um, I I personally feel those two rivalry games go back and forth on like who's better. Right now, it's the game, and it's if you want to get mad, Iron Bowl people, blame Auburn. What Auburn has been hovering around 500 for half a decade. Um, Michigan and Ohio State are consistently ranked usually as top 10 teams when they meet for the last like decade. So this game has meant a lot in the Big Ten. It's meant a lot on the national scale. And then, whether fair or unfair to the Michigan fans, Ohio State has always been perceived as the better of the two, even though Michigan has won four straight of these things. Um, so the fact that the underdog team, quote unquote, has won the last four straight makes it even crazier. Games in Ann Arbor, right? I'm pretty
Mm-hmm.
sure it is.
Yep.
So here it is. Stage is set. Ryan Day, can he keep his job if he loses a fifth straight time to Michigan? I don't know. Think about that for a minute. You won the national title last year. You've been consensus number one pretty much, yeah, all year. I mean, you weren't going into the season. Then you beat Texas and you've held the number one spot with a death grip all year. Um, and you might get rid of your coach. I don't think they would, but there would be a significant portion of that fan base calling for him to be fired. Guarantee it. Like if they lose to Michigan, starting at 2:30, 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 Eastern Time, there would be Buckeye fan boards just on fire, calling for his head because it is unacceptable to lose for half a decade straight to the team up north. Luckily for Ohio State fans, it won't happen to you this year. I think Ohio State's better than Michigan. I trust that defense to shut down Michigan. But would I be shocked if Michigan came out here and did it again? No, because Michigan had no business beating Ohio State in Ohio Stadium last year, and they did it. And this Michigan team is better than last year's Michigan team.
True.
This Ohio State team is on par, maybe a little worse, believe it or not, than last year's Ohio State team. So could they do it in their own house to you? Absolutely. Would Sharon Moore save his job when both Chase and I know, have talked about the fact that I'm not so convinced Sharon Moore is going to be at Michigan forever. He beats Ohio State 2 years in a row. That man's going to be there for as long as he wants. And
Yep.
like I said, Freddie, you kind of open up that back door this weekend. Maybe you upset Indiana too, and then all of a sudden, Michigan's in the playoff, and nobody was talking about that 3 weeks ago. Like it was kind of a foregone conclusion that Michigan had no chance. So who knows? College football's crazy, but give me Ohio State to win this game. I think there is way too much rage, way too much talent. They're gonna win.
The two things I'm sitting on for this game is Ohio State's defense and that alongside how it interacts with Bryce Underwood. But then also my biggest one is what is Michigan's identity? Definitely ever since Jim Harbaugh's been there. but even more so, Sharon Moore has carried it over. It's running the rock. Well, one of the best running backs in the country running the rock has went down with a season-ending injury. In Justice Haynes. Justice Haynes is gone for the season now, which is very sad to hear. I love him as a running back. Hate that he left Alabama, but he's one of the best running backs in the country this year, and that's just what Michigan loves to do. They love to pound the rock, roll the pace of offense, and I think that's what you're gonna have to watch because now Ohio State always has one of the best defenses. You can change coordinators, you can do whatever you want. They always have just some straight jacket level players on that team. They are just insane. Now you got a true freshman quarterback who's shown flashes, but he's still very iffy. Has still been he's going to have to really make a statement in this game to win this game. I think you're sending a lot of pressure at him. I think you shut off the run game and make sure that Bryce Underwood is that guy and make him beat you. I don't think they do. On the other hand, Julian Sayin has been just wonderful this season. You could probably compliment that to the players that he has around him and the team that he has around him. But at the end of the day, I think this is Ohio State's through and through. But like Quinn said, I thought without a doubt last season, Ohio State was going to spank Sharon Moore and the Michigan Wolverines. And I'm talking about just everything unleashed after you found out about the Jim Harbaugh scandal, about the cheating Michigan's been doing, about everything. You were just going to unleash it. And then a first-year head coach who got caught in the wreckage of all that said, hey, 1 second, I'm going to do it one more time this year. I mean, it's plausible. Again, like I mentioned, if you watch any of our other videos, rivalry weekend, you toss out everything. You can toss out rankings, you can toss out whatever. None of it matters. It matters about how much you hate the other team. Hopefully, Ohio State hates this Michigan Wolverines team enough to absolutely do it to them this year. If they play that way, it's a 21-point victory for Ohio State. If they don't play that way, Michigan's going to whip them by 10. So I'm going to go with the Buckeyes, though.
So what's interesting about the matchup between these two teams this year is you've kind of got a tale of two opposites in a sense of Ohio State, other than week one, has not played in a tight game all year long. They've been blowing people out and doing it effectively and efficiently. Michigan has played in a ton of tight games. Their wins this year have been 6-point, 7-point, 9-point, 2-point wins. Like they have played tight ball games. And in this game, if it comes down to being a tight ball game at the midway point of the fourth quarter, I am more so curious not on who's going to win the game. How does Ohio State handle the adversity in this game in a tight game at the end of the year? Because last year we saw they did not handle it well. That was an ugly game from start to finish, and it was the exact kind of game that Michigan wanted to play. And it made Ohio State uncomfortable. And I have a feeling that if Michigan can do it again this year and play an ugly, slow game, that's going to make Ohio State very uncomfortable to the point of where they have not experienced that since week one against Texas. And that was the very first game for Julian Sayin. There's a lot of news going on there. So I think Ohio State wins. But I'm with you, Quinn, dude. Would I be surprised if Michigan did it again? Absolutely not. I'm going to be rooting for Michigan just because I think it'd be hilarious. And I love upsets. And I love chaos. And this would be a Big Ten chaos. This would be a college football playoff chaos. Like this would be chaos for Ohio State also, as you mentioned with Ryan Day. So I'm going to be cheering for it. I think Ohio State's going to win. They have the better offense, better defense. They have the better head coach. But again, these are rivalry games. How much does that actually matter? It's which team really, really wants to win more. And in this game, more than any, I think is the case. That this in the Iron Bowl for me is 1A, 1B on the biggest rivalry games in the country. And so it's gonna be a fun watch. I'm super excited for this. I still hate that the Big Ten still does this stupid big noon kickoff. I know Ohio State is mad. If you haven't heard the reports, I think they're thinking about suing Fox for always putting them at 11 o'clock and for the big noon kickoff itself. So that's an interesting development there. But looks like a clean sweep here for the Ohio State Buckeyes in the game. We're probably all going to be wrong.
I will say this, now that we're done recording. I do kind of